Welcome back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here in your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.
And remember, our goal is always to guide you to personal and financial wellness.
Well, thank you again for being part of the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show now for 7 years, and especially this Saturday. We're here every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to share with you not just what's going on in real estate and finance, but also your community, and that's why we love what we do. This is one of our favorite times of the week. So every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., and today was no exception. And we bring on such great guests to learn not just about finances, not just about how you should handle your trust or your college planning, but also about your community and what's really happening here. And thank goodness we have one of the most involved people in our community now for, I don't even know how many years, 20-something years or 25 years, but really is, you know,
a lifetime.
Bob Kellar, multi-time counsel, multi-time mayor, involved in what's happening. And Bob was nice enough to come in to our show right after basically one of the most monumental council meetings they've had to date. And he's willing to share why it was monumental, why it went to the wee hours of the morning this Tuesday.
Hundreds of people, 130 speakers.
Who wants to? Sorry, Bob, but you're passionate. You go. Everybody gets their voice. But wow, that's a lot of speakers. I heard 3, which was, let's see, we had Ken Striplin, we had Dante Acosta, and I was almost done with that.
and
I love them.
And Jerry Asensio.
Jerry Asensio at the NAREP, National Association.
Hey, we love Dante, but he took a little long-winded speech there.
But we love all your guys' passion. And today, this was huge because you actually educated Gino and I, which we appreciate. We should be more in the know, but that's why we bring you on the show and why we share it with others, because they probably don't know really what goes on behind the scenes. They're going to hear about SB 54. And if you could, just a real quick synopsis of what that is, and then we'll go back into what happened at this council meeting that could be a monumental shift for California.
Well, SB 54 was enacted and voted upon at the latter part of 2017 and became law on January 1, and obviously signed off by the governor, of course. And basically what it did is it made a law that California law enforcement could not cooperate with the federal law enforcement agencies, and more specifically ICE, and making available to them information about illegals in our country that have been convicted of crimes and are being released back into society.
And potentially released based on plea bargaining.
Well, and that's one of the big, that's just one aspect of it. Now that if it's something as grievous as obviously you don't exactly walk away on homicides and so forth, but,
thank goodness.
But what very, very high felonies. Okay, the bill does provide that they can notify ICE, but it's off the chart. Most everything else, drugs, burglaries, and grand thefts, and all of this stuff.
Basically, only murderers.
No problem. You are great. We're not going to let ICE know. You just walk out the door, and we'll have you back here after your next crime. Guys, it's insane. And the state is also, in conjunction with that, with a number of other bills that were enacted in 2017, have changed crimes to misdemeanors. That it just boggles my mind. I just, in a nutshell, I will tell you, I've said this before, and I'm not trying to act like I know so darn much, but I was a police officer for 25 years on the LAPD, and I will tell you, you go into, and I'm going to be hypothetical, but this is the common scenario. You go into a store, whatever, pick your J.C. Penney's, how's that? And you go in there with some form of what we call a booster box. And it can be anything from a large sewn-in, extra-large pocket in your pants or in a lady's skirt, or it can be literally a shoe box, and you slip stuff into it. And it's called a booster box. And you use that to be able to walk around, but you're to walk out the door and not pay for the goods. Well, that proves that you had formulated a thought before you went into the store.
Sure.
Therefore, if you can prove that you formulated the thought before going in, it's burglary. Burglary was, at one time, always a felony. Today, oh no, it's a misdemeanor. As a matter of fact, ask a law enforcement officer today that's been on a department for 10 years or less, and what's a booster box? See? My point is being, we have taken all of these crimes and cut them down to nothing but milquetoast. And subsequently, we wonder, why are we having so many crimes? And the other side of the equation, how have they eliminated a lot of the crimes? They have done it by virtue of altering them to nothing, misdemeanors.
Social acceptance of crime. Interesting.
And so what occurred last Tuesday night, and I got to tell you, to some degree, I don't think all of our legislators and people that are in the leadership capacity at various levels of government, and particularly with emphasis in California, although it extends into the federal level as well. What are you people thinking? How about the safety of our citizens?
Right.
And when there was a gentleman at that meeting last Tuesday night who lost his son to a drunk driving illegal. And he'd been arrested 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And I will tell you, the man, I mean, when you have anybody that has that kind of an experience in life, and he took that microphone, and he turned around to that portion of the audience that is in favor of supporting SB 54, okay? And more on to the left side of the equation, obviously. He said, okay, I want to ask each of you a question. Which of your family members do you want to sacrifice and you lose like I lost? Which one of your family members do you want to lose, and then tell me that you think this is okay? And I got to tell you, a pretty compelling argument, isn't it?
Yeah, very compelling.
I mentioned the one having to do with our deputy, David March. He was a resident here in Santa Clarita. Perhaps I've shared this with you folks before, but back in the mid-'90s, I knew his parents back in the '80s. And at a social event somewhere, I ran into them and we were visiting, and they told me how much their son wanted to become a law enforcement officer. And he'd applied to 2 or 3 different departments, but he never did quite make it. And knowing that this was a good couple, I told him, I said, have your son call me. And I subsequently had him over to my home on a couple of times, and having been on the department and said in orals, I coached him. And I was so very impressed with this young man. And the next time he applied for the LA County Sheriff's, he got a 99 and was hired.
Nice.
And then the bad news happened. And that was on April 29th of 2002, when I go to City Hall, and they're telling me one of our sheriffs was killed by an illegal. And at that time, he was a resident of Santa Clarita, due to transfer to Santa Clarita in 10 days. But he was working Irwindale area, stopped a car at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and a 4-time illegal. It had been thrown out of this country 4 times, shot and killed him. And I got to tell you, so trying to sit here and justify playing patty cake with this element is absolutely insanity.
You got to say something about the Laura Ingram show.
Yeah. What's really, I mean, this is so compelling. One, for our community, one also for our state, that I know, were invited earlier this week to be on Laura Ingram. I mean,
that was quite an honor.
I mean, come on. I mean, that's how compelling this is.
I would have to say you're right. It obviously recognized as a very significant thing. You see, we are the first city in LA County. You've been reading stuff going on in Orange County and Los Alamitos and some other cities, but they're not in LA County. Santa Clarita became the very first city, in which, by the way, as you know, the LA County area, and certainly the city of Los Angeles, tends to be a little bit on the liberal side.
Just a little bit.
But Santa Clarita, they came out in force last Tuesday night, and they let their voices be heard loud and clear.
Well, we thank you for being that voice for all of us and educating us on our show, the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. And you can find out more and see the interview with Bob Kellar and Laura Ingram at lauraingram.com. And thank you for your time, as always, Bob, and enlightening us and our listeners on such an important event that will affect our community, the safety of our community, and the expenses to our community. I mean, that's a big thing. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, it's my pleasure, and do me a favor, will you? Invite me back.
Thank you,
you got it, for sure.
All right. Thank you again, all of you, for being part of our show every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. You can find out more by going to donandgino.com. If you need help with purchasing or refinancing, go to SantaClaritaHomeLoan.com. Our Skyline team's here waiting for you, and we thank you again, and we thank Bob Kellar and Gigi Brunstrup, and hope you all have a great weekend.